3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Enchantress Paul Wedding here. With me, as always, is Leopold Knopp. We're here at Riprock's Bar and Grill in Denton, Texas, and this week on the Open Bar Review, we'll be reviewing Suicide Squad. Knopp, tell us all about it.
Suicide Squad is about an eponymous task force established by Amanda Waller, who is played by Viola Davis. One of the squad mates goes haywire and takes over a city that is totally not Chicago. The rest of the squad is sent in to rescue someone from that city.
Now, speaking as someone who's actually read the original run of Suicide Squad by John Ostrander, despite the director saying this is made for the fans, it's not a very faithful adaptation of Suicide Squad. On Suicide Squad, they're really fucked up, psychotic characters that are simultaneously charming. In this movie, they are just maybe kind of bad people who are also really sympathetic.
They're not bad people at all, really.
Deadshot still murders people for money, but he does the whole Leon the Professional thing where he doesn't murder women or kids.
He's got a daughter, and that's his thing. Harley Quinn is motivated by a desire to settle down with the Joker and raise their kids. They're very sanitized.
I'm not sure I would even call Harley Quinn crazy.
That was a lot of this movie. There weren't any real crazy people.
Yeah.
There were people who were kind of acting crazy, being quirky and shit.
Yeah.
But no one really insane.
Remember in Batman the Animated Series how Harley Quinn's really not much more than an object to Joker despite her unrequited love and obsession with him, and Joker pretty much just uses her to get whatever he wants and progress his plans further even if it endangers her?
Yeah.
Well, in this movie they're in love. To the extent of slow motion makeout scenes in a chemical vat.
One of many scenes featuring the Joker.
Many as in about 4.
Minutes of screen time. This was pretty big bait and switch, and I'm pretty pissed about it. A, he's not in the movie at all. B, when he is, he's kind of awful. And C, I didn't hate this movie. And whenever he came on screen, it felt like he was just interrupting it.
Yeah, definitely. Just complete stopping of the plot for something completely useless.
Yeah, like I was really getting into it, and then I have to sit through a couple minutes of this ICP reject doing whatever. Heath Ledger came in and pitched this. He directed some of the scenes. A lot of it was his idea. They went in with some very concrete ideas, and that's what made the character so iconic. It felt like they tried to do this here, but didn't get much further than he has tattoos.
He had the scene with Common, where it shows him protecting Harley.
After offering to whore her out, literally.
I think he was fucking with him, though.
I have no idea. The scene that really stands out for me is, I think it was his next one, where he's interrogating the guy in the basement, and he just kind of walks around and snarls. The impression I got from that scene was that nobody really knew what they wanted to do with the character. Like, David Ayer didn't know, Jared Leto didn't know, and so he just said, hey, do something Joker-y. And Leto was like, hey, I know, I'll breathe through my mouth and hit on him. That makes people uncomfortable. And that's the scene, is he walks around and breathes through his mouth and hits on the guy until he gives up the information.
Jared Leto talked a lot about fucking preparing for this role and, violating people's personal space. And he says there's a lot of cut scenes. Joker might have had an actual character in this movie, but even just based off of what was in it, it still doesn't seem like necessary at all.
There were those reshoots that were pretty big news in April. And this is what I think happened. When they were announced, this was right after Deadpool was really successful and Dawn of Justice had bombed.
Yeah.
And so all the speculation was that they were reshoots to make it funnier and to make it rated R. And it's still PG-13, there aren't any jokes in it, so that's out the window. They wanted to cut it down in length, because it's only 123 minutes. Man of Steel was 2.5 hours, Dawn of Justice was 2.5 hours. What I think happened was they wanted to cut it really dramatically, and they cut a lot of the Joker's parts because he didn't actually
contribute anything.
And they shot in a lot of shortcuts to cut around some of the other things that were too long. And then they re-edited it in that jukebox angle to imitate Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think this might be the most forced soundtrack I've ever heard.
They were skipping tracks they would start a scene with one song, and then they cut that scene so short that they get to like the second verse, and then they're starting another song with another scene. And they have to have a song with every scene because Guardians of the Galaxy.
You know, speaking of the sexism, I also thought this movie was kind of racist.
How?
You had Diablo, who was sort of just a Hispanic gangster stereotype.
They were all gangster stereotypes, but it was a really diverse cast.
They were all stereotypes. Will Smith wasn't really a stereotype, it was just Will Smith.
Will Smith is his own stereotype at this point. Like, he doesn't do any black stereotype things, but he does Will Smith stereotype things. Like, I could tell which lines his handlers added in to make him feel more Will Smithy.
Like, at the end, you have Killer Croc randomly saying he wants to watch BET. I mean, I heard people in the theater like, what the fuck?
Cannibalism and BET.
Yeah.
Which one do you think made it into this PG-13 movie? Amanda Waller is fucking retarded.
Oh, yeah, no, that's her character. She's fucking terrible at her job.
She assembles this completely useless team. They're debilitatingly unruly. You can't give them orders. Their only ostensible use is fighting, and then she sends them on a non-combat mission.
Oh.
The action in this movie was kind of lame.
I don't even remember it for the most part. I remember Diablo shooting fire and Will Smith shooting everything with his wrist gun. That's about it. That's a pretty good summary of the whole movie. It's just kind of lame.
Better than Batman vs. Superman. This movie was marketed toward a fashion sense more than anything else. I liked that about it. Like, they had an aesthetic in mind and they executed it. It's a super shitty aesthetic that everyone grows into at age 13 and out of at age 15.
At least they tried to stand apart.
They tried.
Yeah. Last call. Knopp, how many beers would you give Suicide Squad?
I'd give it a couple. It's clear that they tried something. There's a lot of talk about studio malfeasance here, and maybe we'll get a director's cut of this movie that's really good and makes a lot more sense.
I would also give it a couple, and I think this movie might be mildly entertaining if I had a few beers in me.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that.
Great. All right. As always, Paul Wedding, Leopold Knopp, Riprock, Suicide Squad. Cheers.
Cheers.